And we're live.
We are live.
What's good? We got some guys joining early. Kyle, Pitt, to answer your question, it's the best two guys in the house.
I mean, come on. 4 hands. Let's go.
Team 4 hands over here. We got some good questions early. We're just going to kind of talk about Players Championship stuff. You got me, Chris, me again, Chris again.
Yeah. We're just going to go around the table.
Yeah, we're just back and forth, a little chit chat. So what do you guys want to hear us talk about? We will pretty much try and answer every single question in the chat. But until then, we got some stuff coming up. Players Championship. How'd it go for you, Chris? Obviously, it went well. You made the show.
It did. I mean, it was like kind of an up and down. Honestly, it was. They were funky. It's an old bowling center, and it actually had 10 additional lanes at the end that were much newer. So they played way different than the other 40. So it was very interesting. Always making the move back down to the low end because they always played so different. But they were just really tricky, and then just trying to grind it out and bowl some 230s, 240s because the really big games they weren't happening at our bowling center. I think there were only a handful. I think we had a couple of 300s on. Trying to think what pattern it was. It was on the same pattern. There was like 2 early, and then other than that, we only had a handful of 270s. So I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of big scores being thrown at our region. It was just kind of trying to grind through it, and we eventually got there.
Yeah, that's interesting because our region, like yours, was probably the lowest, and I think ours was definitely the highest in terms of scores up top.
Yeah, I think the South was the lowest because it was like I think Jesper was only like 340, or the 340 really? Was to make the show. I think. Yeah, I think Jesper.
I think 340 was to make the show. I think Jesper was like 500 maybe.
Yeah, he was around what I was, and I was 4th in ours. So that was I think the lowest one for sure.
All right, so that's crazy that your center, was it like different panel? Was it obviously there were 10 newer lanes? Was it in a different section of the building? Like, was there a wall and then 10 lanes?
No, it was straight. So I mean, it was 40, and then the last 10, so it went up to 50. And you could tell they were new installs. I wouldn't say new installs, but they were newer than what the other pairs were. And the biggest thing was carry. They were way cleaner through the fronts. They hooked more down lane, but carry was actually much better at that end, just because the sidewalls were new. There was still some bounce off of them. Pins kind of flew around a little bit better. So it honestly was a benefit to be down there for certain games. It was just the issue was when you left that side of the building, going back to the low end, how different were they going to be, and whether or not you could basically guess correctly.
Yeah, that is crazy. We had like bad pairs here and there, but that's every center in North America. It's pairs here and there. Switching from the high end to the low end was, for me, not too difficult. I just knew, I just really had to follow. For me, it was more about the fact that we didn't have ball reps. So it was like making sure I did the prep work ahead of time, knowing, okay, there's a couple lefties bowling on this pair to start, so this pair is going to hook. I think that's what it was for me, just knowing like which pairs guys started on and not having the, hey, how many lefties started on this pair? Okay, immediately get that feedback. It's more just doing it myself. But that is interesting with the house being completely different.
Yeah, and I think another thing was the fact that we were the only region that was full. So we had a full 96. And with there being so many additional bowlers, majority of them are right-handed. We actually did have quite a few lefties in our region, but as a whole, we still had a lot of righties. And the way the patterns played, is they hooked a whole lot in the middle part of the lane. And the guys that didn't have as much experience, especially the ones that aren't comfortable throwing urethane or just simply don't like it, causes them to start so much further left. And then we had kind of guys in the middle, and then we had a bunch of people throwing urethane as well. So really on every pattern we had, everyone was everywhere. So pair to pair was already bad. And then with everyone starting everywhere, it just continuously got worse. So it was interesting. I mean, if you got the right pairs at the right times, you could put some really big games up. But there's also some really bad spots in there as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Real quick on this one, why no ball reps? Just because we have 5 regions and kind of hard for them to send out 5 separate guys, if not more than that are all going to help people out at each region when there's so many bowlers, not enough ball reps to go around basically, and they don't want to give an unfair advantage to one region by sending, a well-experienced ball rep over someone who they might just send out first time.
Especially too, they needed, the ladies are bowling down in Texas right now, and with the precautions they have put in place, people needed to be there a little earlier. They had to have COVID tests to be cleared into the bubble, and having reps for them, it didn't really work out for a majority of the companies to be able to kind of get someone to every region and also be prepared for the ladies. Yeah.
Obviously, the ladies are bowling right now, which is pretty exciting. Yeah. They're second round of match play trying to make this show. This is a great question. I think it should be a yes, but it's a no.
I actually didn't know this answer, and we were driving home. So Mikey and I rode together, and we were driving home, and I was like, I wonder if you win the step ladder, if it counts as a regional title, and then you can upgrade it to a national title if you win the whole thing. But I think
it should. Technically,
it's like a super regional.
Technically, you're bowling like a regional event plus more elite level bowlers.
Yeah, I just think it's considered qualifying for a tournament, I guess, is why.
Yeah, I just don't have a regional, so.
My man's trying to get out here.
I'm trying to sneak a little regional. Urethane is always the answer, obviously. Come on.
Simple.
Why are there so many urethane talks? Where are the rest of the guys? They are probably sitting at home watching us talk instead of joining us on live. No, in reality, I have no idea where they are.
Well, I know Mikey was at the shop. I left a little early. So he was there. He's probably home by now, I would imagine, but he's got some pups to take care of. New pup in the house.
Yeah, he's got some new ones.
Yeah, as for the rest, I don't know.
I do not stream from a toaster.
It's an air fryer.
MacBook.
It's an air fryer.
From my MacBook Air Fryer 2.0. But yeah, I mean, our regional was crazy different. Seems like for the guys that could score, it was 250 over per pattern.
Really?
And for the guy, yeah, I mean, I was 900 and something over. Frank was 900 and something over. Kevin went minus 60 on Shark, which put him at 700 over. So, I mean, the scores were just insane. The first 3 patterns, because of the lanes, played almost identical.
I think that was everywhere because we had them very, very similar as well.
And I'm not sure if it was just the AMF lane bed or if it was, I don't know, but they played super similar, and I wasn't opposed because I had a good look on the first one, which means I had a good look on the next 2 as well. And then that third pattern I thought was going to be the Shark, I thought was going to be low scoring. After practice, after hearing people talk about it, I was like, oh, it's going to be low scoring. Perfect. I can just shoot my 200 games and hang on to the lead easily. And we had like 2 or 3 300s on that pattern. I think we had 2. Frankie and Anthony Lavery Spar had one. But
I think the Central had like 4 or 5.
Just on that pattern?
Shark. Yeah. I know they had a bunch. Yeah, we had the first 3 playing very similar as well. Kind of the, not really a joke, but the thing that was being said was, going into Shark, we're finally going to have to bring out different bowling balls, because like we had a bunch of balls in the paddock for 4 patterns. Thought we were going to throw a bunch of different equipment throughout the week, and brought the same 6 out for the first 3 patterns. Had no issues, and then maybe one weird pair here or the other, but going into Shark, we actually had to bring out some different stuff. So it was nice to finally actually throw different bowling balls.
That is crazy. Yeah, because it was the same thing for me. I brought out 2 3-ball bags, and I carried one around with me, and there were plenty of open spaces to just put my bag in the back. So I carried around a 3-ball bag pretty much the whole time, and then when we were like 10 minutes before practice session, I had 12 bowling balls out in front of me for the Shark pattern, because I didn't know if I was still going to be able to use urethane, or if I was going to have to move deeper in with something like a Hero Solid, like a big solid ball. And there were guys that did both. Kevin moved in, used a solid ball. I stayed out left. I think a kid like Charlie Reed was playing in, but there was no catching Frankie at that point. He just kept striking. Let's see. Kyle was the first man out. Kyle bowled super well. He had a chance going into the last 2 games, and realistically, AJ Chapman just kind of blocked him out. Chapman shot like 290 game 6 to get a pretty substantial lead on Kyle, and then Kyle moved on to a pretty bad pair, and that's kind of the end of Kyle's run. But Kyle bowled really well. I know it was kind of like what you talked about, Chris. There's just a lot of the same bowling balls the whole time. So, I think he threw like a pitch black and an IQ for probably more than 21 games. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of, I don't know, it was weird, and I wouldn't say necessarily frustrating, but it was just, I guess, kind of going into the weekend thinking it was going to be a little bit more of a grind, like 4 different patterns, bowling, 14 games a day, 28 games, thinking we're going to be, I mean, it was still a mental challenge just because they did break down a little bit differently, but really to start, it was basically a urethane ball, and it was just how steep do I need to get, or how straight do I need to play? And then from there, you're going to either try to keep playing urethane and throwing it straighter and harder, or you're going to go to a ball that you hook the entire lane with and just deciding which ball to use. So it really wasn't too much of thinking besides, the little tweaks here and there from pair to pair until the Shark.
I was surprised in our region, and I think in my mind, it's probably just got to do with the bowlers that were there. Not a whole lot of urethane besides like Kevin and myself. Obviously, we used a ton of it, but not a whole lot of urethane going down the lane. And I think it was just due to the rev rate in our region. Guys like Anthony Lavery Spar, who does have a high rev rate, but would rather open up the lane than necessarily use like a true urethane ball. Mm-hmm. Same with Sean Lavery. I know AJ used his a little bit. I know Frankie probably didn't touch his, would be my guess.
Can't imagine it.
But yeah, I mean, I was interested, but I think it's, again, just because the bowlers like Barnes, same with him, probably didn't use it. Stu probably didn't use his too much. So, I mean.
Yeah. We kind of had a mix of both, really. We probably had more urethane than not, which made it even trickier just because the middle part of the lane hooked so much, and not just the middle left to right, like the middle front to back hooked so much as well, that managing that spot was really the hardest thing. talking to Mikey, talking to BJ and Tim as well, really, I feel like I was one of the very few in the building that was successful actually shaping the ball, once he got out of the urethanes. So it probably was a part of the reason that, I ended up kind of climbing the leaderboard, is I could actually get my ball to do the same thing more than once, going left or right across the lane.
Yeah. I feel that. Here we go. We got two of these, basically the same question. With not much bowling going on, so I actually was able to practice a lot, but how are your bodies after 28 games and 4 hours of practice in 3 days? For me, knowing that it was going to be 28 games, I tried to make sure that I didn't practice for 4 hours on that practice day. I kind of just got a good idea, probably practice for an hour and 15 minutes on the first one, and then probably an hour and a half during the second practice session, just to try and limit all of the bowling that I was going to do. And then 28 games, I don't care how much preparation you have, it's gonna take a toll. For me, it was more mentally than it was physically. My fingers are fine, maybe a little scratch here or there, nothing crazy, but it was more mentally, just on that car ride home, I was zombie mode, just because even with using the same couple balls the whole time, it's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of thinking going on.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Obviously we do it for a living. So the times that we're bowling these super long blocks, it's definitely not our first time. And I feel like, we're practicing enough, we're bowling enough that we're in, quote unquote bowling shape, even though we, even with COVID might not be in the same physical shape. It's still the repetition that we've put in on the lanes is, enough to kind of keep us through. But definitely agree with the mental side of things. It was more of a mental grind than it was a physical grind, at least for me.
Yeah, same here. And I'm sure it was the same way with most of the guys out there. It's a lot more thinking than you're used to, especially in a practice session. You're on a lane by yourself. You might be testing things out, and every shot doesn't need to be amazing. Mm-hmm. And then you put yourself in that tournament format, and you're like, okay, now these shots got to be good, because who knows how close I'm going to be. Every time you chop a spare, you're thinking, okay, there's 10 pins that I might need later.
Yeah.
Two-hander question. What's a sign you have too much spine tilt? For me, I just try and keep it above that 90-degree mark with the floor. I know some guys dip too far down, but I think it's really just dependent on game. Do you have the muscle to maintain deeper spine tilt, or are you a guy that stands straight up and down and doesn't really have too much flexibility? But
I think the biggest thing is how the ball gets onto the lane. Because you look at a guy like Simo, he's pretty much 90 degrees flat with the lane, but can still get the ball smoothly into the lane. And then you look at someone like me, not nearly as much spine tilt, Belmo, not nearly as much spine tilt, but it's how smoothly you can get into the lane, because spine tilt for two-handers pretty much directly correlates to the swing path with our left hand being on the ball. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting too much spine tilt, which is causing your ball to pretty much spike into the ground, that's not what we want. So that would be a sign if you're, the ball is bouncing the first few feet, probably is one of the biggest signs that you have too much spine tilt.
There you have it. Ooh. I'm pretty anti-plastic ball, even though it says Packy does sometimes. I just did it in the league one time and posted the video. Last shot, I only used it one shot, the last shot of a 300 game, and that was it. Which is probably where that's coming from, but I'm pretty anti-plastic ball in competition.
Yeah, unless it's for a spare.
Yeah, I'm all for it on the spare shot. I can't live without my plastic ball for the spare shot.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever used it in competition. Maybe some sort of ridiculous circumstance.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I think we've bowled enough tournaments and been in enough scenarios where there's probably some circumstance that's happened, or a lane machine broke, or whatever it may be. But even
Bowling
at that
on
point,
wood with no oil, I don't even know. But
even
basically,
then, it's super last resort.
yeah, basically plastic bowling competition, when you bring 12 balls to every tournament, like Chris and I probably do, at least 12 balls, you usually have something that's going to be better than plastic. I feel like, in my mind, plastic, I feel like, is giving up for the most part.
I would have to agree.
Let's see what we got. Just a little shout out to you.
Yo, what's up, Noah? I appreciate it, man. Coach is wondering your tips on keeping balance for two-handers. I mean, it's kind of tricky. I mean, a lot of balance is really just repetition, working on moving the upper body as little as possible. I think a lot of two-handers get very, very wild with the upper body, lots of movement, and being able to stay balanced with all that going on is extremely difficult. So trying to simplify the movement as much as possible helps your legs, kind of keep your upper body in the right position.
It's all about stability. What we got. I'm not sure what this means. So if you want to ask another question down below, feel free and we'll answer it.
Maybe best bowling alley. Maybe that's where they're going.
Best bowling alley? Best bowling alley I've ever been to is Shawnee, Oklahoma, because
it's your spot, baby.
My spot. Belmo, yeah, he just struggled a little bit. Not his best tournament. I'm not sure what happened. It could be a variety of things. I think he did say the jet lag kind of got to him a little bit with his flight being so close to the tournament. But yeah, it happens. Everybody has a bad tournament. Even superhumans like Belmo come back down to earth every once in a while.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I mean, my man's missed one cut in like 5 years. In like 5 years, and everyone's like, what's happening? What's going on? It's like,
he's broken.
That's the level. That's kind of like the expectations that in the bar that he's set even for himself. It's just like he bowls. I mean, he didn't even bowl bad. Like he just didn't bowl great. Like he still averaged like 210, something like that. I mean, it's not like he averaged 180. He just, guys bowled well. Guys bowled out, they bowled well out in the West, and he just, don't match up. You just don't see it correctly. We didn't have a chance to drill bowling balls. I mean, he flew in and drilled 4 or 5 at a different location and then came and bowled. So it's not like, he had the ability to bring 20 some bowling balls like other people did.
Like what I did.
Yeah, same. And so it's like we were able to drive. We were able to bring as much as we could. He had maybe 9 at the most, I would imagine. And obviously bowling balls aren't everything, but at the same time, when you're looking at your stuff and it's like,
I have all these options.
Yeah, and it's like, I know I can shoot 210 with this one. I could shoot 210 with this one. I could shoot 240 or 170 with this one. When you don't really have any confidence with what you have in your hand, it makes it tough. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, I actually I live in Wichita. Frankie lives in Wichita, and we drove separate cars down because we each planned on bringing 20 balls, and neither of us have a truck.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. How's everybody feel about the qualifying being split by region? Will we see this more often? I have no idea if we're going to see this more often. In terms of the immediate future, I think the schedule says no, we won't. Which I thought it was all right. I think it was a cool way to get more people on.
I think we're losing you a little bit.
Yeah, definitely cut out big time there. But I I think it's a cool way for more people to get on TV shows. You're seeing a lot of guys making their first TV show this week,
One in
and I
every
think it's
region.
a good yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity for those guys to um, want to go out and bowl on tour more. You know, with having this success and getting that confidence boost,
Mhm.
definitely. That you like it?
Yeah, I think it was more because of COVID is why
Oh,
it
100%.
happened. And I think it was very well received to where I think we could see it again in the future. I mean, none of us know, but I think it was well enough received that it could definitely happen again. And yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like it's getting more exposure for more bowlers. We're going to get different people on shows. Whether or not it's the big show, we don't know, but they're at least getting some
Yeah.
airtime. And that's good for the bowlers getting the experience. That's good for the
Hmm.
PBA of showcasing not just the superstars that make the show like Belmo, EJ, Bill, Prather, like those guys.
The
We're
usuals.
actually getting some other people on the show, and yeah, so I think it's really been a win for everyone. I haven't heard any complaints from any of the bowlers about it
I
being
haven't.
unfair. I think it
Yeah.
was I think it was well thought out of who should go where, and I think the kind of the touring pros, the top 60 or whatever, um, were spread out pretty evenly. So I think it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with pretty much everything you said. Just, I haven't, like you said, I haven't heard anybody complain about it, which is, especially in the bowling world, full of complainers like
Shocking.
myself. Very shocking. Even the guys that didn't make it were they just didn't make it because they didn't make it. They didn't make it because it's not that they didn't make it because of the format.
Yeah.
Um, there's one thing you do to keep your head in the game when you're struggling. Not a whole lot.
I think you gotta not focus on your score or the result of your shot. I mean, it's easier to talk about than it's easier to do. But yeah, you need to be much more focused on whether it be execution or deciding what ball you need to do or to throw, where you need to play, if you need to make a move, rather than, man, I just split again, or I just, missed another spare, or this just happened, or this just happened. You got to find the why those things
Yeah,
happened and what you can do to fix them, and focusing on that side of things rather than what happened is the easiest way. Well, it's not easy by any means, but that is the most successful way.
yeah. And for me, the thing that I see people struggle with the most is looking around and being like, "Oh, well, he's striking. Why am I not?" Well, like that's a great question to ask. How about you like look at the part of the lane he's playing in, look at the ball he's using. Is that something that you can do? Or is that something that you can be close to doing? You know, like maybe you can't play the same part of the lane as a guy like Chris, but maybe the ball choice that he's using is something that you can kind of assimilate to where, okay, yeah, he's using, a shiny ball. I need to go get a ball that's kind of like that. Maybe I'm using a ball with a ton of surface. So the thing that I do personally, I always just go back to a physical thing. For me, it's one physical thing that I got to focus on, whether it's my follow through or my backswing. It is always one of those two things that I can just go back to and say, is my follow through in the right spot? Is my backswing getting too steep? And one of those two things almost always, it doesn't fix bad bowling, but it makes me focus on something other than the fact that I'm bowling bad. And who knows? I might actually throw it better when I do that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's all about getting your mind off of the negative things that are happening.
100%. 100%. Um, you go up and dap them up. Duh. It just depends.
Maybe a fist bump now with COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
Maybe
a
a
little elbow
fist
bump.
bump, air high five. I would just go up to him if it's a guy like me or Chris. Like I don't care. Just come up, say hi, introduce yourself, tell me you're a fan or that you're a hater. It is what it is.
Either one.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is if they're practicing, probably stay away.
Just
I mean, if you want, you can just watch. Like, I mean, I don't think people really care if you watch, but or just a quick, just say, hey, I don't want to bother you, but nice to see you, or whatever it may be. Just if they're actively practicing, I would maybe not, just walk up and say what's up, but
pop in, say hey, and pop out. Basically, introduce yourself. If it's somebody you see all the time, I mean, feel free to. If you just see him walking around, feel free to try and go up to him and try and, if you're trying to get better, ask him a question or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
we aren't celebrities. We're just people.
Especially our generation. I think we're much closer to the fan base. Not saying that the older generation isn't, because I think they're getting, especially like Beef Barnes, they got their thing going, and I think a lot of the older guys are getting better at it. But especially guys our age, obviously all the guys in the house and everything like that. I think we're all super approachable. I mean, with social media nowadays, it's it's kind of, you just almost feel like you're everyone's best friend, even if you don't talk to him for a while.
I haven't even met him.
Yeah, because you feel like you know all these things about him. It is a little awkward sometimes when you meet somebody that's a celebrity, or somebody who has 100,000 followers or whatever it may be. It's like, man, like, I know all these things about you and you have no idea anything about me.
Yeah, exactly. What are some tips for shooting spares two-handed? Ball always hooks past the pin. Find a way to throw it. I think there's two things you can do. You can either throw it dead straight, or you can throw it 23 miles an hour like Kyle Troop does. In my mind, those are your two options. You can throw it straighter, and that just takes practice, trying to get your hand perfectly behind the ball, making sure it's not cupped like this, but it's more up the back. But yeah, that's kind of my tip for you. But Chris probably does something a little different.
Well, the ball speed thing is not always applicable to everyone. I mean, especially, I feel like the biggest thing for people switching to two-hand is getting enough ball speed. So that's definitely the harder one. I mean, if you have that option, not a bad option, as long as you can do it under control. But I actually kind of change depending on what we're bowling on. I don't love to be super up the back of it. I can, especially obviously if we're bowling on short patterns, or something that just hooks a lot down lane, or even throughout the day, if the lanes really start getting beat up and really start hooking more, then I'm just really up the back and really end over end. But if you allow me to have enough oil in the lane where I can release it somewhat normally, like a normal strike shot, then I'm going to do that. But if you're having an issue with it hooking, I imagine you need to try to work on being a little more up the back of the bowling ball, less rotation.
That would be my tip as well. And I don't exactly follow my tip, but I throw a backup ball, like a little baby cutter, little backup ball at my 7 pins, just to make sure that it's not going to hook past it.
Realistically, spare shooting, you do whatever it takes to knock the pin down. I mean, I've seen guys that will literally throw a backup the entire lane to shoot a 10 pin. Would I recommend it? No. But if you shoot them 98%, you can't really argue with it.
Can't argue with high percentage.
Yeah. So whatever you do that knocks the pin down.
Do we wish we could wear shorts bowling PBA tournaments?
Certain bowling centers, absolutely. I tell you, Lubbock in July, or even the Chicago tournament. Were you at the
Aurora?
Chicago tournament in like 2017 or what it was?
It was 2018 or 19. I think it was 2018, like late 2018. But it was hot and the approaches were sticky.
Yeah, so I actually made the show that week, and it was the AC broke, and it was
overnight.
It was like 98 to 104 or whatever that entire week. It was like pure humidity. It was miserable, and yeah, it was just not a fantastic experience. And yeah, so that would be one time I would for sure, but I don't really care if I have to wear pants. It doesn't bother me at all.
This would be a good answer. Pants are just a little better looking, more professional, makes us look like athletes, professional athletes.
Yeah. I mean, but the issue is like once you start going into shorts, it's people start pushing the boundaries a little too far, and then it starts getting to where it's basketball shorts, and maybe not basketball shorts, but shorts that just don't look great. Like, you know, like the golfers now, they're able to wear shorts during the practice rounds, but there's rules on the shorts. Like they have to be, you know, there's no pockets on the side. They're basically the
dress pants.
They're basically dress pants that are shorts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have to be a part of it if we were to ever wear shorts. And they're getting better now, where like the quote unquote unofficial practice days, we don't have to dress up or anything like that, which is nice because most of those times we're coming in from wherever, either flying in or driving in, and having to go to the hotel and act like we're getting ready to bowl a tournament or change in the bathroom, just kind of a pain in the butt.
And I'm not even sure if that's because there's no fans or what the deal is, but
I think it's just technically the tournament hasn't started. But I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we had our unofficial practice on the Thursday, and Mikey and I drove. Yeah, so Mikey and I drove in, and we got there in time. And we're like, might as well. You know, one, we could take our bowling balls in. Two, might as well throw some shots while we're here. Doesn't hurt anything. And we walk in, and we have 12 lanes. We had 12 lanes because the entire rest of the center was a league.
Dang. Our center was empty.
Yeah, they had a full-blown league. And so we had 90 people on 12 lanes.
Wow, yeah.
And it was also 120 in there.
Our unofficial practice session was not exactly too many people show up to it. There's plenty of space, not a lot of people. It was probably what the unofficial practice session was meant to be like.
Ours was the exact opposite.
This isn't even a question. Purple hammer, plastic ball.
Which 2 to 3? You mean one?
I used 2 purple hammers and a plastic ball for spares, so that was 28 games of bowling. But I did have a look that I could have chosen on the Shark that was not a purple hammer, and I probably could have bowled about the same score, to be honest. I was going to be a hero solid or an instigator with a short pin,
and it really wasn't even the left side. Like Tim Foy used a purple hammer, 2 different ones for the first 21 games.
Yeah.
I think he switched actually to a melee the end of the chameleon. I think he went to reactive and actually bowled a couple of pretty good games, I believe. But yeah, for the first 19, 20 games, I mean, he just threw one of the 2. So it was definitely in play, that's for sure.
This is for you.
What is the biggest difference between being on tour versus bowling in college? Because I know you're really starting to make some shows. College, I was straight money. Well, I appreciate money. Well, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. But realistically, college and the tour are about as different as humanly possible. Man, I don't even know where to begin, honestly. I feel like the knowledge in college bowling obviously isn't nearly as high as what it is on tour, because it's basically just the best of the best. And for a majority of the time, the teams that aren't that great, the teams that are, you know, just kind of clubs or just kind of there just to hang out and have fun, they don't really ever move. I mean, they pretty much stay to the right the whole time. And, you know, for the teams that are moving, basically they're just building a wall that you can throw it at. I mean, there's pretty much unlimited hook to the right, and eventually just gets into a funnel to the left. And pretty much at the end of every college tournament, you're lofting the gutter. You have 12 boards of room down lane because it's, you miss it to the right, it hooks back. You miss it left, it goes through the puddle, and then yes, you are, and it still strikes. So I mean, and plus it's a completely different atmosphere bowling team events versus bowling individual. So yeah, I just think it really couldn't be more different. I mean, what you have to do on tour, it's pretty much throw urethane from 12 or throw reactive from 25. And when you throw reactive from 25, you have to throw it 2 miles an hour slower than what you had to throw urethane. So it's pretty much straight with urethane or a really slow ball. And then you're hooking it with something that's a little quicker and shapes more down lane. But you got to throw it slow because they get so tight down lane. There's never, I wouldn't say never, but there's rarely free hook down lane. You have to create it with ball choice, ball roll, and speed.
Yeah, I feel that. That's the opposite of what happens on the left side. It just gets harder as the day goes on, and it's impossible. And I said,
stay in the same spot, throw it a little harder, and
see what happens. Pray that the right side doesn't get too easy. What are you most looking forward to throughout the rest of the season? I'm really only looking forward to the good weather that is Florida. Most of it's in Florida, so
actually having tournaments to bowl. We
have plenty of those around here.
Bowling. Yeah, I mean, we have a decent amount around here, but I mean, we want to compete on tour,
Well, we want to win some titles.
Trying to win some titles, trying to be on TV.
The scores are being very different from other regions. Who has the advantage for the Jupiter shows? I think this just comes down to experience and who can kind of figure it out the quickest. I don't think there's a huge advantage. Yeah, it's different pattern, different bowling center. None of us have bowled in it. Maybe some of the guys who are actually from the South region have bowled in the center before, but
that's pattern. It's also where the summer shows last year, like the Strike Derby and the other clash thing,
King of the Lanes.
Yeah, that was also in that bowling center. So
yeah,
a few of the guys have bowled in. I think like
before. Jacob and Anthony, Jacob and Simo, and
then you got Bill.
True. But again, it just really comes down to experience.
Yeah, and I mean, they bowled kind of some, I wouldn't say gimmicky things, but it's more made for TV show. Like
it's not a ton of shots on TV.
Yeah, the lanes probably weren't super difficult. I mean, it's just a whole different atmosphere than bowling a step ladder. Like they weren't bowling true games. They were just, one trying to strike as much as they could, and the other one was, well, I guess the King of the Lanes thing was, but
yeah.
I don't think really anyone has an advantage going down there. It's a different pattern, different center. We'll see what we got. I think it'll be interesting as the regions go on, because they're obviously bowling at different times, so there's going to be many re-oils, and whether it be better to have one of the regions early, late, in between.
Who knows?
It'll be interesting.
Scores are going to be different, that's for sure. Best solid symmetrical made by Brunswick. That would be the knockout or the hero solid. What is the high? Depends on your style. A million different choices. Chris probably throws it hard and straight on the China too. But
not a lefty though.
Not a lefty, which I don't know why that's. I mean, for a lefty, any ball that strikes the most. How about that?
Yeah, I feel like if you're playing straighter on a house shot, you can pretty much throw anything. Just depends on ball speed.
Yeah, like if you throw it,
the stronger the ball, the slower the ball speed, the weaker the ball.
Yeah, so if you throw it, Eric, if you throw it 100 miles an hour, you're going to want to throw the most hooking bowling ball you can get your hands on. You throw it slower, you're probably going to want something that doesn't hook as much. But yeah. Let's see what we got. We got plenty of questions today. Chris, what balls work for you?
They're flowing in. We love it.
Yeah, we're trying to get to every single one, so we're probably about 10 minutes behind right now on questions, but keep sending them in.
Yeah, we're getting there. So urethane obviously was a big play. And like we talked about earlier, the first three played really similar. So I threw a fast pitch for a good chunk of at least the fresh. I actually don't think I threw it nearly as much as others. I went to a phase 2 on the Viper, I believe. Yeah, I'm trying to remember which patterns or what. And then I did the same thing on Bear through urethane. And then I actually went to one of the new global balls, the Ordnance C4, through that on Bear the last few games. Actually, I think I threw an Idle Synergy as well towards the end of Bear. And then I'm trying to think, Chameleon was next. I threw urethane a lot, and then went to the C4 again, kind of just looking for the same shapes. And then on Shark, actually threw the Reality, one of the new global balls. And then I went to a phase 2 for a short period of time. Then a Idle Pearl.
Okay, how many purple hammers do I have stashed? Not enough. How do you guys even sleep, considering that tournaments last for the whole week, usually 10 games a day? So for the majors, it is a lot of games, and that's probably why we sleep, because it is a ton of games. It was definitely different for me this week, actually. When we bowled 14 games that first day, I was so tired leaving the building, even though I bowled so well, knowing that I gave myself a good lead going into the next day of about 100 or 150 pins. I actually didn't sleep well at all, just because I was like amped up, haven't really been in that position before, and knowing with a block or 2 blocks to go, I'm one of the guys to beat. I'm not
and then
chasing.
You already start thinking about what I'm going to do in the morning.
Yeah, I'm like, oh,
it's like then you're already game planning.
Is that same ball going to work? I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, please, can I play a similar part of the lane? I don't know. It looked good in practice. What are the other things like? And it's just like racing because I'm trying to stay in the lead.
Yeah, so there are obviously long days, but at the same time, we never really get back too late. Especially now, they've cut everything to one squad. You're usually done at reasonable times. We really never start terribly early. I mean, obviously it's a lot of bowling, but I think
that was my biggest complaint was the
what's that?
11 p.m. finish, and then if you make the cut and you're on B squad, you got to show up at 8 a.m. So like you said, nowadays they kind of shrunk the schedule, not ending as late and not starting as early.
Yeah, so I think it's been pretty good. I mean, Mikey and I talked a lot just because, we both were kind of in the same boat. He kind of had a little more of a rough patch the first day than I had. So we were just both talking about maybe what we could have done better, maybe pulling out some different balls, just seeing what else we could possibly think of. And we're also watching some basketball, just kind of hanging out in the hotel. And then before you know it, it's like 1 a.m. and we got to be up in like 5 hours. And it's like, probably should go to sleep. But yeah, I've always kind of functioned on not as much sleep as most people. So it's never really been an issue for me.
It's crazy. I'm like the opposite. I feel like I need a ton of sleep. But when it comes to bowling a tournament, I can still wake up at 7:30 in the morning and go bowl the same as if I woke up at 9:30.
Yeah, I think you just get into that mentality.
Definitely not the best bowler in the house because I'm tied for last in titles, and I am last. I think I'm the only one that doesn't have a regional. So technically, I'm the worst in terms of accomplishments.
Mikey does not have a regional.
So we're tied for the worst. All right,
Yeah,
Mikey.
Mikey also does not have a regional. I bet Zach doesn't have a regional.
Zach probably also doesn't have a regional, but both Mikey and Zach have made plenty of world medals along the way. How do you increase your ball speed as a two-hander?
Use them legs, boy.
Legs. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Use your legs. Legs, legs, legs. Get them moving quick.
Faster the feet, faster the ball.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about the tour from people not bowling on tour? I don't know what people think about bowling on tour.
Yeah.
That we're all amazing, nice guys. That's the misconception. Some of these guys are bullies.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know. I guess I've been hearing more just because I've been in the pro shop now that people are coming in and asking us, but they're more just asking us how we bowled or where we're going next. And I don't really know too many misconceptions. I guess maybe you guys could enlighten us on what you think the tour is like.
Yeah, the only misconception I can think of are people saying, "Oh, I can shoot 230." I don't think you understand.
Yeah. Well, and plus, like how different the shows play than throughout the week. It's like, oh, dude, this guy, like, I mean, look at Butters, like led the U.S. Open back-to-back by 600 pins 2 years in a row and didn't win either of them.
Has like a okay game on TV.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an okay game, but I don't think people realize how different the TV show plays from the week. Like from the week that we qualify to what we bowl on TV, way different.
100%.
Could easily classify as a completely different pattern.
And it's just a million different things. It could be the lights, it could be the oil, it could be the amount of times they're running the pattern. There's a million factors that play in, and you just got to figure out that even if it's the same pattern, it's technically a new condition.
Yeah.
Rank these adjustments from most to least common. Moving boards, changing speeds, changing surface, changing ball.
Well, considering you can't change surface throughout the block, that's probably the least. But we still do it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like I do all of those quite often. Maybe not change balls as much.
Yeah. So in terms of most often, moving boards would be the most often.
Yeah,
then
I think
changing speeds, then changing ball, then changing surface for me, because I have enough balls at different surfaces where if I have a hero solid, or let's say I have a knockout, I would just go to a hero solid because I know it hooks earlier, not necessarily go to another knockout with surface on.
Yeah,
that would a little bit be me.
I'd probably keep it the same, just switch surface and change balls.
Yeah. In terms of the order of those moves, I would move boards. I would do it probably move boards, then change ball speed, then change ball. If you're asking me middle of a block, I start leaving 7 pins. I would move, then ball speed, then change balls. But
yes,
that was not exactly the question. Given the I refuse to answer this question.
Yes. Our lips are sealed.
I guess you'll just have to find out if any of us switch. Legs again. Legs.
I think that's the exact same one we answered.
Probably. How many reactive balls did you throw not in practice but in competition? I threw 2. One. I threw 1. I threw a hero solid. And a fell throughout. No, I didn't. That's a lie. I threw 0.
Liar.
I threw a hero solid. I thought about throwing it. I brought the bag and I put the ball on the rack. And then my purple hammer started striking, and I was like, all right, we're good.
Scare tactic. See, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that to that one of the games. It was actually when we switched ends. We went down to the very first pair. Ball wasn't going through the pins like fantastically. We were hitting the pocket, went and grabbed a different ball, brought it out, and I was getting ready to ball in the lane that I actually was striking on. So I was like, all right, I'll still throw it on this lane. Struck, and then I get up there. I was like, I'm going to throw it one more time. I'm going to throw it one more time. Do this. And then all of a sudden I had a 6-bagger, and I was like, all right, the other ball's going back in the bag.
Yeah, I left mine out for a game and a half. I put it on the rack at, towards the end of game 1, and I was like, all right, instead of switching to the Hero Solid on Shark, just switch to the other purple hammers, see if it can get through the fronts a little cleaner, knowing that I might have ruined the pair for myself. Just like there was a zone from 5 and left where if I threw it there and sit there fine, but the second I move into 6, 7, 8, there's just an early hook spot, and I couldn't get far enough right of it without my purple hammer no longer working. So I was like, all right, put it on the rack, and I was like, don't do it. Just throw a different purple hammer, see what happens. And then I moved pairs, and I was like, 2 shots with this purple hammer. If they both hit the pocket, I'll be fine. If they don't, I'm switching balls immediately. And the first one hit the pocket and struck, and I was like, back in the bag.
Thanks.
I was like, thank you, fresh pair. Oh, can't you change surfaces in between games on TV? I think you can. I believe you.
I can't remember.
I think you can because there's a practice in between your games. I think anytime that there is practice shots being thrown, you can change surface. I believe. Do not take my word.
Well, I know the person coming on can for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't anyway. But
I probably will if I get to bowl another game on TV. I probably will. I think that was one of my problems when I bowled on Cheetah. My urethane ball started going a little too far down lane, and instead of switching balls, because it was the second game I bowled because we had that seeding game.
Yeah.
And it was the second game I bowled. So instead of just freshening up the surface or changing to an earlier hooking with a fresh surface bowling ball, instead of doing that, I just kind of stuck with it, and my ball reaction went like this, where all of a sudden there was a ton of hook on the gutter and nothing inside. So I probably would now, looking back and now looking forward onto this TV show, I probably will. If not, if anything else, just freshen up the surface that's already on my ball.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's for you.
Oil patterns are not as important as the bowling center. Absolutely. 1000%.
Told you this weekend.
Yeah.
The same thing.
I mean, that's exactly it. I was talking about it on my Twitch on Tuesday night. Is the absolute perfect example. Every single region bowled on the exact same pattern, the exact same type of oil. And I mean, Frankie was 1,000 over in the Southwest, and then the high righty in the South in Florida was 400 and something. I mean, it's 600 pins from the highest righty.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I think it's the same thing it's almost even more prevalent on the left side, where I can get to a center and I can throw a purple hammer off the lip every single game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll send it in a group chat to Jacob or one of my buddies on the East Coast, and him say, oh yeah, there's no way you could do that here.
Yeah,
if you get it to the gutter, and it's just because of traffic. Because of traffic, if there was traffic, I wouldn't have even started there. I would have started playing in and knowing it would come to me. Whereas, because
you sent us that video in the house chat of you, and I was mind blown because I had Kyle Mayberry, a lefty, directly to my right.
Pretty good one.
Pretty good one. Rev rate, can throw the urethane, can really hook it as well. And I mean, I was watching him and I watched your video. I was like, there is no shot he can do that. Like, no chance. And not because he physically can't, because the lanes definitely will not
Yeah.
let him do that.
And to be fair, Kevin also tried to do that and couldn't. I think it was like partially ball roll, but you could physically see. We were bowling on 48 feet. I sent it as far left as I could possibly get it to the half board at like 30 feet. And I'm sitting there like, this is in the gutter. Okay, good thing I doubled to start the game. And then it comes back and goes flush. And I was like, well, I don't know how that happened, but I know the lanes are probably coming in like this at the gutters where there's almost like a bumper out there for me to throw at.
Yeah, I mean the left. It's actually funny enough. The one I thought the left had the best look on was Bear in practice because I was watching Anthony Newer and super high rev rate, throws it hard, but he was actually getting it to hook off 1-2 consistently and had a little shape inside of it. So I was like, man, like I think they're gonna absolutely whack this one. But their look on the other ones weren't great. And then it turned out that Chameleon is the left just absolutely waxed him on Chameleon.
Yeah,
I mean, there was several that were close to 300 over just in that one. And those scores were unheard of in our region.
Chameleon was day 2, right? Day 2 or morning pattern?
First one, day 2, yep.
Yeah, I had 360 over on Chameleon, which in practice I was like, meh, it's going to go okay. But to speak to the center even more, I had 360 over there. And when we bowled the World Series this year, within the past 12 months, we bowled the World Series, and I could not strike on that pattern. Just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
They played not even remotely close to what they did in Vegas. I mean, they were way tighter in Vegas. Your ball actually got through the front part of the lane. I mean, I felt like my ball was hooking like as soon as it hit the lane this weekend.
Yeah, I was actually bringing out the tricks. I was lofting it. I was lofting it a little bit on Chameleon, just knowing the fronts are gone.
Yeah, BJ texted Mikey and I, because we were about as far away as humanly possible from BJ, and asked us what we were throwing. And like, we're both, just absolutely hooking urethane. And like, yeah, throwing urethane. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, but I was sliding like 34. And like on the first game, I shot 160 the first game because like I was scared to go that far. Like I was like,
just didn't think it would strike from that.
Yeah, I was like, this can't be right. I didn't throw. Right. I threw some bad shots, but I was like, there's no way I can get this far on fresh. I was like, it's just can't be the right play. So then I tried to go like back to the right and throw it harder. Wouldn't go through the pins the right way. So I ended up shooting 160. And then I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like that's what the lanes are telling me. I'm going to do it. If I have a bad, first 4 frames, then we'll try something else. But then I had 250, 280 the next 2. And it's like, 100 over after 3 with 160 start. And, I really should have just kept chasing it in. But
it's tough because you're thinking to yourself, no lane has ever told me that this has worked before. Like no condition and no lane has told me I can throw urethane from 25 at the arrows and just ship it right.
Yeah.
And
it was like
this pattern, this center, you're just like, all right, this is the only play.
Yeah. It was like the faster I got it there, the more it hooked. We got to the high end and like there were some shots where I got them going right pretty quick. And like the urethane ball looked like a reactive ball, like coming off of it and going through the pins. It was just, it didn't really make any sense at the time, but it was striking. So I was going with it.
I feel that. Position round starting up. Do we have a score? Do we have a score check?
I'm actually watching on my left side here. Shannon is bowling Val. Shannon has double 9 spare, 9 spare, 9 spare. Val has 9 spare, 9 spare strike, 9 spare, 9 spare strike. So tight. How
the scores around them? Because I know there are others that are.
So Missy's 72 back.
And is she the closest one?
Yeah, these are 3-4. Missy's 72 back. I imagine she's on 11 and 12. Missy has 259 left.
Ooh.
So
We got
259
a
and a dub.
jumper.
259 and a dub, but Lindsay, she's bowling Lindsay, and Lindsay can also shoot 250. So
How far back is
Lindsay's 111. So Missy realistically probably is the only one with a chance.
Miss is the only one with a chance, and she needs Val to lose.
Needs them all.
She needs Val to lose and shoot like 210 or less.
Yeah. If Val wins, it's pretty much over. But she's down 9 right now.
Well, it's getting crazy there.
It's a juicy one.
The one that strikes the most. Again, same answer.
Yeah, I actually had somebody ask me today at the bowling center, like, "Oh, like, what's your favorite pattern to bowl on?" I was like, "The one I'm striking on." It's like,
whichever one I can beat everybody else on.
Yeah, it's kind of been the same thing that we've been talking about. Bowling centers play so different. Patterns play so different place to place. You can't pick a pattern because you lay it down on lane 10, you lay it down on lane 25, probably going to play different, just in the same bowling center.
Mm-hmm. How often is your guys' equipment drilled / pitch off when bowling? You considering you guys carry like 20 bowling balls. All of my balls fit pretty much the same because I drill them and I'm the best throw shop operator around. No, I mean that
the west of Mississippi, at least.
For me, I drill my own stuff, and it's pretty hard to mess up a two-hander's drilling. So not often, but I do hear guys complain about it sometimes, just because you got to get them drilled on the truck, which is not necessarily the same drill bits and all the stuff that you use at home. So it might fit slightly different, but usually guys figure it out. With switch grips nowadays.
Yeah, juicy side note, Vouch 710 and Missy doubled.
Ooh, shoot. We got a
match. It is very close. Yeah, I would kind of agree. Like it's hard for us being two-handed to really mess anything up. Yeah, but I know they measure differently on the truck than what most pro shop operators do, because the way they do it is considerably faster, and with how many bowling balls they have to go through, it makes sense.
Easier.
So yeah, so realistically, it's just knowing that difference, because it comes down to a slight length difference, and then knowing that, then you should be good. And then Val also just 2A10, so not looking so hot. Not looking so hot. It looks like she's about to be maxing out at 195.
So it is in Missy's control.
As of right now, it is. It is indeed.
What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you guys on tour?
I imagine it would have to be something with the house. It definitely isn't anything bowling related.
I don't know. The funniest thing? I got a couple of them.
I think a lot of it's just like making the vlogs.
Yeah.
Those are like the funniest. Like
sitting
sitting
in the bathtub with Mikey.
Being in every room in the house in Indy.
Yeah. Watching Chris and Kyle almost kill each other, but almost laugh it off. I'm not really sure where it was going to go.
I wasn't sure what was going on there, but that was comedy. Nothing really like too funny happens on the lanes, because we're all obviously pretty serious since we're trying to win. But
Norm dropping the ball.
I mean, watching other people, like if we're not actually bowling, and watching other people's can be really funny at times.
I think watching bowling sometimes is almost better than bowling. Like if I could watch, if you could watch anybody, if you could just stand behind one person, who would it be?
Oh man,
you could pick a couple. But
even one that doesn't bowl anymore.
Top 2 or 3. Yeah, sure.
Patrick Allen has to be up there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Patrick Allen has to be up there. And probably Norm.
I love watching. I like watching the guys that like play to the crowd. Norm does it
Oh yeah,
so
Norm
well.
does it.
I like watching Norm because he plays to the crowd so well, and he gets angry at other people. Like I love Pete Weber because like if he sees somebody out of the corner of his eyes, he will not be afraid to be like, "Hey, it's not your turn. It's my turn."
Yeah. I actually have a funny story about Norm. This was actually before I was even, well, I don't know if I didn't bowl this year. This was the year before I started bowling all the tour stuff. But I had bowled like US Open and Masters stuff before, and I had met Norm a few times. So I did. I've known him and I've spoken to him, and but I was watching the players because it was in Columbus. It was only 45 minutes from my house, so I drove over, watched, and I'm going down, and he was on the very end pair. They weren't using the end pair, but the last pair they were using, and the scores were right there. So I was walking down, checking scores. Also, Norm's been my idol since I was, since ever. So obviously wanted to watch Norm as well. And I was actually watching Shayna Pluhowski bowl as well. And I was talking to her, talking to her about the scores, seeing what was going on and all this stuff. And Norm goes up, throws a shot, 10 pins, spares, comes back. And, at the players, they kind of have like 2 steps up to get to where the fans would be. And he like leans on the railing and he goes like, "Psst, come here." So I'm like, what does he want?
Yeah.
So I walk over there. He's like, do you mind keeping it down while I'm on the approach? I was like, what? I mean, I'm I'm at least 8 to 10 feet behind that railing, and it's another 6 to 8 feet to get to where the approach even starts. I mean, I'm not even close. I don't speak that loud in general. And he's like, "Psst, hey, do you mind keeping it down while I'm on the approach?" Man, I was losing it.
Shut in your mouth.
I was losing it. He said it in like the nicest way possible, but at the same time, you could like, he was just like,
at the same time, you're like, "Hey?"
at the same time, he's like, don't let it happen again.
Yeah. At the same time, like, I'm bowling for dollars here, so shut up.
Yeah. It was comedy.
What a good. Oh, wait. I had a good one and I lost it. Okay. Rob is asking for advice. Did you bowl near him?
I bowled with him. He was on my pair.
Oh, that's even better. So what kind of
yes.
What kind of advice can you give Big Rob?
The number one thing, I mean, besides taking his thumb out, the number one thing is ball speed. Just being able to throw it slower. And I mean, he just throws it too hard. And realistically, they weren't even what we would consider tight down lane, because we got to use Kegel machines. So they were still pretty tight just because of how much everything hooked. But for what we typically bowl on, they really weren't that tight down lane. So I think the biggest thing for sure, I had the same issue when I came out on tour, is ball speed, because you got to be able to shape the lane. And the only real way to do it is throwing it slower and getting steeper through the front part of the lane. So with the ball speed you have right now, it's realistically almost impossible to be successful on what we bowl on the tour.
Yeah.
Just because your ball is going to hook at 20 feet and then bail like it did quite often this week. And then you see it hook early, so then you want to chase it, and then throwing it really hard doesn't allow it to make it back around the corner.
Come back.
I mean, dude, the first 2 years, 3 years on tour,
that was quick by.
I absolutely lapped the field in 2 8-10s.
Not the good stat you want to be leading.
Not the stat you want to be leading, but I can guarantee you I led the field in 2 8-10s. I mean, it was bad.
All right, we got a couple more questions before we pop out of here, but is flow bowling worth it? Yeah, because you get to watch us. That's why.
And also when you sign up for flow bowling, like, it's not just bowling. I know most people who sign up for flow bowling are just interested in bowling, but dude, they got like literally every sport you could imagine on that app. that you can watch.
They got like wrestling, but like real wrestling.
Volleyball, wrestling, track and field.
They got it all.
Marching band, I'm pretty sure they have. Like,
it's crazy.
Like 50, I think they have like 50 or 60 some sports. Like, it's not just bowling.
And here you go. I would say it's worth it if you get value out of the other sports on Flow. I'm not sure how to say your name, but hello.
Stepan. Hopefully that's right. Hello. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. 5 a.m. That's an early wake up. I'm not ready to talk about that. It just makes it easier. Like just less splits.
It blends out the patterns.
People hit it harder so they can hook it more. It's not the same urethane that was years ago, I will say.
Not even
years ago, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever before the like new pitch blacks, purple hammers, like True Motions, whatever. Like even balls like the True Motion, U Motion that people don't use all that much, Fever Pitch, even those are balls that hook so much more than the old school urethane balls. So
yeah, I mean, you take
it's not even really like urethane.
Yeah, you take an 80s, 90s urethane ball and try to do what we were doing with these urethane balls. Ain't happening.
Yeah. What does take your thumb out mean? He bowls two-handed with his thumb in the ball. So he means basically don't use your thumb anymore. So if you're going to bowl two-handed, my biggest thing is, yes, some guys use their thumb for like more control, but I haven't seen too many people be very successful without their thumb in the ball or with their thumb in the ball. In fact, I haven't seen any.
Depends on where you're bowling as well. Like, I think it's perfectly fine if you're not trying to bowl on tour because you don't have to have super steep angles. And I don't think it's really viable to have super steep angles two-handed with your thumb in it, at least consistently. Like I said, watching Robert, it just looked like he was fighting, trying to get it off his thumb and get it going to the right consistently, where it kept wanting to go up the lane. Or if you're bowling amateur tournaments or something, the lanes aren't quite as hard, you have that miss to the left and it doesn't seem as bad.
Stepan, is there enough PBA tours, including regional, to come to the States for an entire year from Russia just to bowl? Of course, not during COVID times. I would say yes, but I don't know if it's financially the best decision unless you have, like, if you can come over here and you know people to stay with and stuff like that. If not, I would come over. Usually the tour is a bunch of events within a 2-month span. So a lot of guys come over and do that. So if you're going to come over here for a while, that's what I would do. I would find that 2-month stretch, bowl all those events.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely is a lot of stuff to bowl, but it's definitely a financial hit up front, especially flying that long distance and hotels and on all that good stuff. It adds up pretty quickly, especially if you're rooming alone, you don't have anyone coming with you. Obviously, we got 11 guys in the house. We're not always staying all together, but when we're able to have 7 or 8 in an Airbnb, we could be saving a couple $100 a week just by doing that.
Exactly. We're talking more about like success on tour, sustained success. Again, on the left side, it's a little different.
Yeah, and he's left-handed. He doesn't have to play the steeper angles. I think the biggest reason you should take your thumb out is for the steeper angles. When you have to stand farther left, throw it further right. Never really have to do that left-handed. I
think basically what this guy thinks. Why torture your thumb if you don't have to? I think the same thing, kind of. Just, I don't think you need it. I've never seen guys have less success after they take their thumb out. I've only seen it go up. For example, Tim Foy. Tim Foy took his thumb out, bowled this weekend, and bowled awesome. And he'd been contemplating for a while, finally really committed to it the last year, and he's been bowling great since then.
Maldonado did it. Just won Snowman doubles.
Yeah, just tournament for 20,000 right there. We'll take a couple more and we'll probably end here within a minute or two. But if you could pick a doubles partner who doesn't bowl anymore, dead, alive, in their prime, who would you pick?
Who doesn't bowl anymore? Oh, okay.
Dang.
Yeah, it gets tough.
Can I pick Ryan Simonelli since he doesn't bowl anymore?
No, he definitely still bowls. He's on TV next week.
Yeah.
Give me Del Ballard.
That's a good one. The problem is I didn't watch bowling. Like I started bowling when I was in high school, so I don't know.
You know the names though.
I know the names. Like, doesn't bowl or doesn't bowl on tour?
Why don't you just pick Jason Couch?
Jason Couch? Yeah. Like I would pick Parker, but he still bowls technically. Yeah. Like Parker, my idol. But I'd probably pick like Earl Anthony, just because I've seen it. I would pick my college coach. I'd pick Gordon Vadigan or Mark Lewis.
Gordon.
Yeah, I've never seen Gordon bowl. I've only seen videos. I've never actually seen him throw a shot, but like he's got all the accolades that there are to have that aren't PBA accolades. So I would love to bowl doubles tournament with him or Mark Lewis, who probably could bowl, but doesn't anymore. Yeah. That'd be it for me. All right, we got one.
I saw some Fagans in the chat too.
I saw some Fagans in the chat. That'd be a good one too.
That is a good one.
I certainly wouldn't ever bowl a doubles tournament with Stu Williams. That's for sure. No, I'd pick Patrick Allen just for you, Stu. I would have to pick a lefty. I'd have to pick a lefty.
Yeah, PA, man. PA mop.
PA mop. Last question. Let's find a real good one. This one's good enough. Good enough. Last question. Casey Mattingly, guy out of St. Louis, stud.
I mean, I have alphas. I have trying to think what else I have. A lock. I have Sherlock. High Road Nano. I don't know. They're over in the room. I have like 20.
You got a bunch.
That. Yeah, I have some good ones. I have like Defiant Soul. I have Disturbed. Like 3 Marvel Pearls, the original one.
Do you ever plan on drilling these?
Yeah, I've actually drilled. Like I just drilled a alpha. I don't know.
Right before this week.
A few months ago. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've drilled a High Road Nano not too long ago. And it's hard too because like nowadays like the companies are coming out with so many balls so quickly, and they're all like really good. So it's hard to really justify drilling these when I feel like obviously they're not the same ball, but at the same time I feel like we have balls that I feel like besides the alpha, I think the alpha was just kind of an outlier type ball. Yeah, it's just a very unique piece. But other than that, I feel like we have things that are similar to the balls that I really liked. So I'm kind of just saving them for the times where it's like, man, we really don't have something like this right now. And I feel like I need it. That's what I'm going to drill.
I used to stash them up. And then, like you said, I mean, the days of companies coming out with bad bowling balls kind of over. Every company, they all come out with, they miss sometimes, but it's not like they'll miss with 5 consecutive balls. And your options
always miss here and there. But
your options are so wide nowadays that it's hard. I have a Quantum Classic Black stashed away in the back. I have balls that are discontinued that I stashed away, like Counterattack Solid. I don't even know if that's discontinued. I have a Quantum. I have a Closer, a Hero, a couple of Heroes, a couple uppercuts. Those are just like newer stuff. I don't have any. I have a couple angles, AMF angles stashed away. I have a old school Brunswick Phantom, like the original black Phantom. I got that in the basement. But yeah, I think the
It's
days
just
of
kind of finding balls
guys
that
like
you
stashing
like.
antique marble pearls and drilling them.
Yeah, what a loser. But yeah, I think you find balls that were super successful for you, and I threw a lot of alphas, threw a lot of Marvel pearls, so I got quite a few, and I've drilled them, throughout. And I didn't drill a lot of those for a while because once we switched to the no weight hole thing, over the last couple of years, I was scared to put a layout on, a ball that I can't get a replacement of, and it suck. So it took me a while to kind of figure out the correct layouts for me, or which ones I liked, and then kind of go from there.
Chris, do you have any advice for getting into a good bowling school, college? What should the average be? Very, very broad question.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough.
One for real. This last one for real.
It's tough. I feel like you need to, I don't know. I always wanted to focus more on the school side of things because that's truly what you're going there for. But I mean, it's hard. I would say, yeah, I mean, if you're saying good bowling college, I mean, there's a lot of kids out there that are averaging 220 in high school, even 230 in high school now. So like every year, kids are averaging higher and higher in high school and in leagues. So every year that number is getting a little bit higher. And I think it's bowling things other than high school, like getting experience in other tournaments,
going to junior gold,
trying to find success in those things. I think that's the best advice. Bowling anything you can.
I would say go out and bowl and visit those schools. And a lot of those schools, it's walk-on tryouts anyway. It's not, unless you're a girl, then they do pick their teams pretty much ahead of time, give full scholarships and stuff like that. But if you're a guy looking to go to college, I showed up to Wichita State with like a 202 average. And that was because I shot 800 the last week. So it is what you make it. It depends where you want to go and kind of the work you're going to put in from there. So you can do anything you want if you work hard enough. Just go out, bowl, see what happens.
Facts.
But until then, we out.
Peace. I appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out with us.
Lots of good questions. Lots of good questions.
Absolutely. Hey, they were pretty dominant in the Ivy League conference finals.
The Ivy Bowling League?
Yeah, the Ivy Bowling League 2018 champs. I remember that team. They were good.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, it's been fun. It's been nice chatting with all of you, and plenty of questions that are we'll hope to keep it going, and we'll be back next week, I think. Probably Thursday again. Seems like a good day, but try and get some new faces on here next time. Until then, see ya.
Later.